salvation or some bullshit like that. But it was talking about Aquarius.
And it's, before you go on, it's funny because I think like my ascending is Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
Something within my birth chart, I forgot what it was, it's Aquarius.
The Aquarius is represented by the great water vein above us. That's why we getting a lot of these anomalies, because Big Mama is slowly letting that shit in here. There is a river in the upper atmosphere of water that's deeper than the Nile or the Mississippi, and it runs clean around the planet. When Mama starts getting upset, the water vein starts to penetrate, and it starts to cause suction in the oceans, and it dumps water on the land. This is the energy fields or vortexes of energy created.
Kind of like that. Okay.
So now you see tornadoes in the wintertime, but nobody's questioned the rarity of the event because they don't understand that Trump closed HAARP in 2019. So when I tell them that these sisters is going to rain the most beautiful destruction on them, they're not looking at rose patterns in the clouds. This how you know that it's Mother Earth, because she's making it pretty on purpose so that you will know that her artistic hand, Shakti energy, is at play all over Earth to straighten this shit out. The divine feminine. Right? So she sent Oye in with the waters coming from all angles, with all of the sisters behind her. They done fucked up now.
Agreed.
They didn't listen. Right? And saying the prophet is not without honor except in his own home and amongst his own kindred. So they didn't listen when the prophet was talking. They didn't listen when the priest came and warned them, the righteous priests. They didn't listen. They knew better than God herself, right? Because they've been talking to some man that's not God. So that's why they keep getting the fucking wrong answer. So when they've realized that God is a woman, and they feel stupid. But they keep that agenda running.
That's wild.
Look, Ariana Grande told him, God, what if God is a woman? Stupid ass.
Hey, okay. But it makes sense because when you think about like the anatomy or the dynamics of just how things work within right now the 3D, where it's a mother, a father, and that creates the child, like it's the same thing. There's no way that life can exist without a female presence.
Listen, the woman was able to produce parthogenically before she decided to make men.
I've heard that before.
No baby. She decided to write a rule in the book to make women have babies with men so the men can have something to carry on a legacy with.
That makes sense.
That's Big Mama work. That ain't got nothing to do with us.
That makes sense, and that makes sense why the bloodline is so important. Now I see it's coming together.
Right. Because she got a set of daughters who have blood that ties to the soil through mitochondria. And they are the ones who are the heirs to the earth, right? When it say in the book, it say, and the meek shall inherit the earth. The word for meek is effeminate. Effeminate means the feminine. So the feminine shall inherit the earth, the divine feminine, the daughters of Isis, the heirs to the earth right. Right? So the conjure is the earth rights, the right to control the weather, to balance out the imbalances. And when the people that's in charge of government fail to listen to the warnings of the women, Then the women make the weather straighten their ass up. You don't have to fight them. You remember the old ladies always say, baby, don't even worry about them. Lord gonna take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
We was thinking Big Mama and them was talking about this Jesus shit. She was talking about her and her 3 sisters. Or her 7 sisters, however they line up. On this knockaround game with the weather. That's why you got certain motherfuckers get struck by lightning. They was meant to get struck by lightning because the sisters called the lightning to strike that ass down. It don't happen like people think it's gonna happen. The lightning strike come in many forms. Right? So now we in the wilderness trying to wake up the sleeping giants. They running around, they thinking they seagulls and chickens all the time. They eagles in disguise. So we trying to shake them and wake them up. And the eagles is the ones that wear the feathers. And the feathers was the bays. And the bays was the governors of the land. Right? So when they issued the challenge, take off the feathers, take off the fez, y'all ain't gonna know who y'all is when we get done with y'all. We still know who the fuck we is. We know we ain't come on no goddamn ships. We know we blood tied to the land with the earth rights and the birth rights.
Okay, because where I live at, I've been here literally my whole entire life. Whole entire life. Like my mom said that we have family in Mississippi and stuff like that. But for the most part, I've been where I am my whole entire life. So it's like, I get that when you say, like, this is our land, because what else can you reference but here?
Yeah. So go back to when Martin was explaining on the news show what was done to disenfranchise our people. We already knew the land and the workings of the land as farmers, as husbandmen, caretakers of the land. Right? That was our job. So now we teaching some foreigners that look like us, but they ain't us, how to tend to the land. While we teaching them how to tend to the land, they teaching our people the Bible. By the
That
time
was
they
the
got
quote
done
unquote
learning,
slavery area.
look, by the time they got done learning the Bible, we was kicked off our land, so-called emancipated, put into psychological slavery, took out of the bondages of chains. Using a Bible and a miseducation system to mind fuck us into submission. Somebody had to come and think on a higher level than they possibly can think in order to see the problem from above. So now you got to exalt your thinking into the thinking of God.
Hello. That's where the universal understanding come in at. As I was talking about that earlier, once you get a universal of understanding about things and understand that everything is about duality, and that's funny. That's funny. Everything is about duality. I said if men and women sat down and had a conversation with each other about just all the stuff that they've been through in their life, they'll come to the understanding that we all have been through the same thing in some form or another on some type of level.
Right. So the advantage the enemy held over us is isms. Racism, sexism, classism, you know, and then they break it into doctrines and philosophies. Right? But they don't give us none of the substance of what they telling us. Because we ain't taught how to use it to activate nothing inwardly. They use it to teach us how to work something outwardly. In other words, project our energy to create the reality they want us to create.
Yep.
So I stay away from the church. Because if they ask me, I'm going to tell them the goddamn truth and they ain't going to like it.
Okay. Because let's be real, as kids, we knew that it wasn't right. As a child, you
when
just instinctively knew.
I was 6 years old. I remember this shit like it was yesterday. We was going to church in Grand Rapids, Michigan, at Bethel Pentecostal Church.
Oh, my stepdad from Michigan.
Pastor Abney was the preacher.
Mm.
His son was the choir director. The lead singer of the choir was Sister Adeline. She was the mother of the DeBarge family.
Mm.
Right? So we sitting in church Sunday, Easter Sunday, and he preaching. He opened up the book and he said, start reading the crucifix story and the Jesus story to us. He's telling the Jesus story. I said, Mama, why that man lying? she pinched my ear, wrung my ear. I thought she was trying to pull my ear off my head. She said, boy, don't you say that in the church.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't supposed to be talking like that in the church.
See, that older generation, I never understood that because I got done like that too. Like I remember telling my grandma like this, I don't like it. I used to tell her I don't like going to church. Like we used to get into it because I never liked it. It didn't feel right. Like I knew it was something that you had to like feel internally.
Mm-hmm.
So if it wasn't making me feel how I instinctively knew to feel, then yeah, it wouldn't.
But when I got older and I was sitting there, you know, when you locked up, you got a lot of time to think. And I was like, why would a 6-year-old know this man lying?
Hello.
What would make a 6-year-old burn out in church while that man lying? And I wasn't a talkative child at all. It wasn't me talking.
That's what I be telling people. It don't be us talking. It's literally the spirit.
When I was sitting, we used to go to all kind of churches. We went to churches in tents. We went to churches in trailers, churches in basements, living rooms, back rooms. We went to churches on people's front porch. We went to all kind of churches. Well, I'm going to tell you this. I wasn't always uncomfortable at church because if they had a good choir, baby, I was in.
Okay. And I was in the choir. See, with the churches, somebody was saying how everything that we do is like a ritual, right? So with knowing that and knowing just me personally knowing how energy works, I believe like that's the hooker.
Ritualistic stuff in the church.
Like that's the hooker. Like we gonna play this loud music. It's gonna get your spirits going. It's gonna get your vibration going, and we just gonna pull you on in with this music.
Because they use the music for emotionalism.
Yeah.
Now watch this. The center of the church, depending on what denomination, is either the priest, if you're Catholic, a minister or a reverend, or the preacher. All of those names is synonymous with the centerpiece of the church. But around the Christian Protestant church leader, they have something called deacons.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the traffic in the church is monitored by something called ushers. Right? Now, etymologically, the word usher is Usirs. Usirs is Usirians. These are the aides of Osiris. Right? And the deacons are the 10 deacons of the Zodiac. Right? That became 12 deacons when imposters appeared. Right?
Because that's where my mind went when you said that, like the breaking down of it is like a form of the Zodiac.
Yep, it's exactly what it is. Now the choir is symbolic of the choir of heaven. right? And the choirs of heaven was the priestesses of the noon. Noon is now called nuns. But the noon was the primordial darkness of the abyss, aka dark matter, melanin, 999 ether. On the ground, it's 666 ether, carbon.
So that's what's in the 3D us right now world.
Right.
Okay.
So the reenactment of the stellar alignments takes place in every service. Right? And when the choirs are singing, they are the ones who really giving the real message. That motherfucker talking message, if he give you the truth, is rare because that's not his job. Right? His job, he's supposed to be teaching you how to translate the harmonies of the choir.
So it's a gospel song that says, "Sing until the power of the Lord falls down." That's basically what that means, is what you just explained is what's happening. That singing is sending vibrations up to the ether, and it's sending the okay, I see. Okay.
So when you go listen to the old gospel, you find out that they were the same as the blues, but they were sung in the fields. So how do you activate gospel music? The fields require a voice to carry a distance, right? And the voice carries with the drum.
So that's the bass.
Right. And the
to
drum
bring
is
the
based on the
vibration.
heartbeat. Right? So the drum is based on the heartbeat. When they sing a love song, a blues song, or a gospel song, it's coming from the same heart space. That's why the music sounds so similar. Once you understand they all coming from the same heart space, now it's not so much of where they're getting the energy from to translate this. They directing it in different directions. Right? So the music is telling you something with every artist that perform, tied to his name, his musical style, his instrument of preference, if he had an instrument. Most of those blues singers was our chieftains giving us messages in the music, right? Like Little Richard is Chief Screaming, was it Screaming Hawk?
I'm not sure. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as like the Chiefs and all of that stuff, that's the stuff that I'm missing, that I'm pretty sure a lot of people is missing. Like,
because when we got invaded, we knew how to communicate in varying different forms where we ain't had to write nothing down. But we also wrote stuff down. But our traditions are oral. All of our laws are out in the public domain. All of our rulings in the public domain. Right? It's up to the people to determine if it's an actionable cause. And that's what we was doing with the Free Larry Hoover thing. Trying to get the people to understand the need to take action on the cause. Right? So now we get to refocus the energy back to us. So once we understood what the code of the church was and how they was using it against us, we able to use the very same thing in order to unravel it. Right? So you have to find out the crossroad of the church, the history of the church. Because the crucifixion got fiction right in the name. And cruci mean crux, and crux is the center, and the fiction is at the center of the story. But it's truth and falsehood strangely mixed. They took something that was true, but they told the story in a false narrative to mislead you on purpose. So now we had to go back and unravel the narrative they gave us. And if we know who he is, we can filter through the story that's written in our DNA to find out why our genetic memory keep us locked in the church, the mosque, or the synagogue. But they're using our stories. They're using our stories, and they're not telling us what they really mean. We got to figure it out. That's our job.
That's why I'm not gonna say what I was finna say, but I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm hearing you.
Yeah.
I'm hearing you because it's clicking and it's making sense. It's really a frequency thing. It's really an energy and frequency thing.
Right. But the whole thing about changing the energy was to change the gender frequency to try to overthrow the matriarchy with a rogue patriarchy from a species that's not us. Because to them, what looks like a male is a female. Right? They females is the ones with the peace. But they males of high rank look like voluptuous women. The lower the rank they are, the more masculine, feminine they look. I call them seahorses. Because they mate like seahorses.
That's disturbing.
Yeah.
That is disturbing.
So they